Can you help?
Affirmative, Endeavor. Help is on the way. Do you see it? Copy?
Affirmative, Houston. Works for me, Houston. Over and out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rush Limbaugh.
Thank you. What a crowd. What a crowd. Thank you. Sponsors call off spelling bees, say students' efforts misdirected. Listen to this. Spelling bees don't fit with the Kentucky Education Reform Act because they emphasize competition and rote memorization. Spelling bees place incredible stress on young students. Spelling bees produce few winners and many losers, and the trend in education is to make every student a champ. Man, this is this is outcome-based education, folks. This is OBE. This is dumbing down America. Kids are not fragile little wallflowers. We don't have to waste our time understanding their feelings. We need to push them. Kids need to be taught early that there's a lot more inside them than what they can get out of themselves. You think back. They say not to point because it's intimidating, but... Well, I want this to be intimidating. You think back. Think back to your best teachers. Who were they? The teachers that got the most out of you. The teachers that made you score better on tests than you thought you could. They pushed you. They drove you. I remember the notion here to take these kids and assume that they cannot handle failure, cannot handle defeat, because that's not life. Life is made of failure. Life is made of obstacles that have to be overcome. And if in school you're taught that everything's going to be equally the same, and everybody's going to get a C, everybody's going to be average because we're not going to humiliate people who don't do well, and then if we're not going to reward achievement, and if we're not going to incentive people, I shudder to think if this takes over through most of our school districts, what kind of kids will our next generation be when they become adults? It's not good. One more thing. Money Magazine, this is the Forecast 1994 issue. Just came out. There it is. They called me. They said, Rush, what's your investment strategy for 1994? They asked a bunch of people this. There it is, last page. Where famous folks are investing. and here's, now they didn't use all of my quote. They left out one of my key strategies. Here's what I did say. My strategy is preservation of principle. Cash is king. I'm bracing for a major deflationary cycle through 1994. I've inquired of a number of financial experts who shall remain nameless, and all see no signs of any inflationary pressure, i.e. growth. Well, I've also told them this. And I'm also going to keep a sharp eye on those industries that Mrs. Clinton criticizes and sell short in them. And they thought I was joking. They thought I was joking and making it all up. Oh, well, we can always count on Mr. Limbaugh for a spicy quote, can't we? But I am going to. Most everybody on this page, by the way, is listed municipal bonds, and those are tax-free investments. Cash is king, preservation of principle, meaning don't lose what your investment is. And nobody is really looking for big growth in 1994, despite all the great news the Clintons say they're causing, which we're going to talk about if we get to it tonight. We got a lot to do tonight. We'll get to the rest of it right after this break, so don't go anywhere. What got this all started? Here's Dan Quayle from the 19th of May, 1992. Watch this.
It doesn't help matters when primetime TV has Murphy Brown, a character who supposedly epitomizes today's intelligent, highly paid professional woman, mocking the importance of fathers by bearing a child alone and calling it just another lifestyle choice.
Now, you remember what happened after that. The liberal community in America had a conniption fit. They just went nuts. They went ballistic. They went bonkers. They lost it. Well, and of course, and everybody, and in my book, which of course the senator over there has, I've got a whole chapter on Dan Quayle was right, is right, or our poverty of values. If you want to find out what I'm saying is true, that conservatives for the longest time have had this figured out, read my book. It's in there. Or it's in the Atlantic Monthly. It's everywhere. Now let's show you Bill Clinton Friday night, interviewed by Tom Brokaw. Here's what he had to say about all this.
I read his whole speech, you know, his Murphy Brown speech. I thought a lot of very good things in that speech. I think he made a mistake. I think he got too cute with Murphy Brown. But it is certainly true that this country would be much better off if our babies were born into two-parent families.
Well, welcome to the club. Well, now, wait a minute. Wait. Hold it. We did a nexus search, folks. We went back to the archives of news, and we found what the president said about that speech some 2 days later. Here's what he said about Dan Quayle's speech. Unfortunately, the vice president's address is, in my view, cynical election year politics. Now, let's remind you what he said later on that year during the Democratic convention. Watch this.
Frankly, I'm fed up with politicians in Washington lecturing the rest of us about family values. Our families have values, but our government doesn't.
Well, guess what? Now the government has all the values you need, and your families have no values. Ever since that convention to now, you families have lost all your values. The president and his party have now recognized it. They're late arrivals here, folks. I bring all this to your attention because I don't want people to lose confidence. They see this and they get frustrated. They say, my gosh, we've been talking about this for years, and here come these liberals, late arrivals, and the press goes, oh, wow, aren't they getting it? Oh, aren't they caring? Aren't they compassionate? So stay confident. I mean, you can take some signs of victory at least, and they recognize the problem. But here's what to be wary of. Family values are going to become a health care issue. You wait. Health care is going to be the biggest umbrella ever. They want to get everything they can underneath that umbrella. Health care. We need good health care. That'll put the family back together. You wait. That's what we got to stop. They don't have any idea what the solutions are. We got to take a quick break because we're way over time here, but we'll be back with more. Come again, harder is a football cheer. We got another segment on President Clinton here. I don't know, over the weekend I was out in Los Angeles. I occasionally got to see some television, and I am amazed. Everybody's going on and on about how the Clinton economic plan's revitalizing the economy. Why, we got 4% growth in the fourth quarter, and everybody's going, ooh, wow, isn't America back? And I stopped and said, wait a minute, we had a 5.3% growth rate in the fourth quarter last year. And we got a smaller growth rate this year, and everybody's having an orgasm because of how great this is. Here's President Clinton describing his success as he sees it.
Over the last 10.5 months, you see a remarkable thing in a world economy that's in recession. In America, interest rates have stayed down at historic levels. Inflation's been at historically low levels. Investment is up. Personal income is up. More private sector jobs, almost 50% more private sector jobs now in the first 10.5 months of this year than in the previous 4 years. Over 5 million Americans have refinanced their homes, and we see the beginning of a national economic recovery that is quite impressive. So that part of the economic strategy, keep inflation down, keep interest rates down, get investment up, is working.
All the jobs are probably government jobs for the most part. They are. No, they really are. His plan hadn't been implemented yet, folks. All you pundits in Washington, it doesn't go into effect until January. There's not one thing happening now that he can say is because of anything in his plan that's happened. And I'm going to tell you this. If we have economic growth after his tax increases next year, it's going to be the first time in world history that that's happened. And if it happens, I'll be the first one to tell you that it's happening. It won't. We'll be back after this. Thank you. Thought we'd close tonight. Vice President Al Gore was on Meet the Press Sunday and was especially erudite, articulate, and cogent. Thought we'd show you.
Is that acceptable? Well, it's premature. Well, nobody has a crystal ball. Well, of course, well, you know, well, yeah, I tried to put this in what I think is the right context earlier.
24 times. We didn't repeat that. We didn't doctor that tape any. Those were all wells, none repeated. I kept waiting for Perot to jump in. May I say something? Larry, can I say something? He's interrupting me again. Can I? But, of course, I was just dreaming. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight's excursion into televised broadcast excellence. We got to go, but we'll see you on our next show. We'll be back. Chris.
Attention all personnel. Attention all personnel. This word just in from the Pentagon. Rush is on the way. Coming to a tank radio near you, it's Rush Limbaugh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rush Limbaugh.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Santa Claus is back. How you doing, Baz? Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you. The truth, and we find it. By the way, somebody called the radio show today, had a great line. Rush, call yourself a farmer. You'll relate to a lot of Americans. You are the farmer of truth, and you harvest daily. And I thought, hey, that's pretty clever. Now, we have this. Do you see this Christmas tree over here, by the way? Somebody goofed up in their eagerness to please me. What's so funny, Sandy? I haven't said anything yet. In their eagerness to please me, the staff knows that Christmas is my favorite time of year. I absolutely love Christmas, and we've gotten started early here. There's no question about it. But what I wanted was, we wanted a cardboard cutout of Vice President Al Gore as our Christmas tree. We're going to hang ornaments on that. I guess we we could still do that as we get closer to Christmas. We can have 2 trees, couldn't we, Dick? There's no room in the production budget for that. How much could a cardboard cutout of Al Gore be? $37? Oh, they've already priced it. Anyway, there were big negotiations. That must be why it's not here. Too expensive. There were big negotiations today. I had started the radio show about noon Eastern time, and in the first commercial break, which today took place about 12:20, my assistant, HR, Kit Carson, came in and said, hey, negotiations began and concluded within the past 3 minutes. And the Pentagon has relented, and your radio show will be on Armed Forces Radio, first hour of it every day, starting January 3rd, 1994. So that's what that open was all about, my friends. We have succeeded. You see what happened? The Clinton Pentagon needed a quick victory. They had been humiliated in Somalia. They had been wandering aimlessly in Haiti. Who knows what they're trying to do in Bosnia? So they looked at me as Grenada. They came after me, but we beat them there, too. And I've got to thank Congressman Dornan for getting this whole thing started with a letter to Secretary Aspen. And I also want to thank Secretary Aspen, Secretary of Defense, who last Wednesday called me and personally discussed this after the Pentagon put out some information that made it sound like nobody in the military wants to listen to the radio program. Now, as we go on, we'll continue negotiations for the TV program. As of now, it's just radio, but we'll eventually get this on the network as well. We got into the production meeting this afternoon, and we just got loads of stuff. There was just more than we could. I mean, people are always saying, Rush, when are you going to go to an hour? You got to get this show to an hour. And frankly, we've talked about it, and we've hashed it around back and forth. And I've always said that doing an hour every night is far different than doing a half hour. Tonight, we could have easily done a 2-hour special with as much as we had. And rather than just do a bunch of themes, like one segment's this and one segment's that, we've just got a bunch of video that we just want to roll and show you tonight with some comments. We call this, you play it and I say it. Yep. How many of you know that? Yeah, Bill Arthur. Ever heard of the name? You know who he is? He is the Northwestern Regional Director of the Sierra Club. I'd like to show you some video. Remember, they had this tree summit out in the great Northwest not long ago to talk about what to do about the spotted owl and so forth. The president went out there. Well, this guy was one of the major players, one of the prime participants. Bill Arthur, the Sierra Club. Here's what he said.
But we have also treated our forests as if they were an inexhaustible resource. But they are not. We have cut our forests like there was no tomorrow, but tomorrow caught up with us yesterday.
It's him on the left there.
In my lifetime, I have watched our forests and our rivers, once rich with fish and wildlife, turn into battered landscapes, both in eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, and on the west side.
Now, let me tell you what Bill Arthur did. And this is so typical. First, let me review with you what I've always said, and it's documented in my new book, and it's in Newsweek, or U.S. News this week has exposed all the myths of the militant environmentalists. I have told you that what these people are not people trying to save the world. They don't have the convictions that they profess. What they really are is a bunch of anti-capitalists, and I mean this in the bottom of my sizable heart. The militant environmentalist movement in America today is a new homo-socialism, communism. What these people are is against private property rights. They are trying to attack capitalism and corporate America in the form of going after timber companies. And they're trying to say that we must preserve these virgin trees because the spotted owl and the rat kangaroo and whatever live in them, and it's the only place they can live, the snail darter and whatever it is. And these people are standing in the way of progress. And if you look at what they think we got to do to save the world, we got to revert to a simpler lifestyle. We have to stop driving so many automobiles. We've got to stop using toilet paper and instead use rags and wash them frequently. I'm not making it up. I am not making this up. I've been on this for 5 years. Now, you just heard what Bill Arthur said. He just condemned all of this clear cutting. Guess what? He just went out into his backyard on his property and he clear cut 20 delivery truck full loads of wood. 85,000 board feet of so-called virgin timber. He just chopped it down, whack, 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 got his little chainsaw out there, wah, 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 and sold it. While he has been driving up the price of American timber by making it scarce, by placing so much of it off limits, he then went out and chopped down what he won't let you. It's typical liberalism, folks. They come up with rules and regulations that you and I have to live by, but they exempt themselves from it. 100% total hypocrisy. And I love coming to this show and pointing this out to you, the big smile on my face, because I'm right about this, and I always have been. And if you're going to watch this show without having these knee-jerk reactions like that, you are going to have the courage to face the truth and the courage to believe the truth, because the truth is here. And we have even more right after this break, so don't go away. Based on her latest, thank you, I think it is time for me to advise you to begin immediately selling short in toy company stocks. Because she has now suggested that the next thing we need to do, after we've discussed now that poverty is the rut of crime, and that every child is a planned and wanted child. Now, here's the next stage of the elders' plan. This is just too good. Watch.
We're going to get over our love of guns in this country. We must start by keeping toy guns away from our children. The play of cops and robbers have become a fatality for too many of our children.
This really is embarrassing. I mean, so now we have the elders' toy gun control bill with a 5-day waiting period or whatever. Now, notice the timing. Here are the Clintons again bashing American business. You know these toy guns. Why don't you do something about this? The thing that bothers me about liberals is the fake stuff in society is what they think's the problem. The real stuff they seem to rationalize and excuse and find a way not to criticize. With little toy guns, do you know if they're really serious about banning these toy guns and stuff, right on the eve of Christmas, think of this. These guns are made, they're manufactured, they've been shipped, and they're in retail outlets now. And by the way, I also told you this. I said when this health care plan was announced, I said, wait till you see what all comes under the umbrella of health care. Now, she just said this is a health care problem. Toy guns are a health care problem. So we got to get that under that umbrella. And if they're a health care problem now, why weren't they 6 months ago? Why weren't they a month ago? Why not 3 months before Christmas? These people are out there saying, hey, we got a great economic recovery going. We're looking for a great holiday season, great Christmas buying season. Then they come out and they try to stifle the sale of these toy guns. Well, if they're going to ban toy guns, think about it when you were a kid. Did you run around doing this to people? You'd sit there and you'd cock the trigger with your thumb. We need to ban forefingers and thumbs. We've come up with some other things that we think need to be banned based on the courageousness of the Surgeon General wearing, she always shows up now in this real Surgeon General jacket, too, you know. Other toys to be banned suggested by us. Take a look. We'll go one at a time. Toy cars. Automobiles are the leading cause of death among teens. We need to get rid of these toy cars as well. Monopoly promotes avarice and greed. We got to ban Scrabble because it teaches spelling, which, as everybody knows, is too competitive now. All these Lincoln logs, you know, these little fireplaces, it advocates the deforesting of America. You got to get rid of the Duraflames, can't do that. Erector sets, got to get rid of those because they promote the unbridled growth of cities. G.I. Joe, we can't have that toy out there. I mean, when you talk about damage, that promotes war. G.I. Joe. Then there's Barbie, promotes little girls to think that all women are anatomically correct and beautiful. And we all know that isn't true, don't we? So why create these little head cases amongst the little girls of America? Then archery sets, because what do you do with art? Well, that denigrates American, Native American. You got to get rid of those. Cooking sets, that's gender stereotyping, female. Toy footballs, ban them, gender stereotyping, male. Any game, really, you got to get rid of it because it promotes competition. Can't have that. Play school farm set, promotes animal captivity. This is also bad. And we got to get rid of Mr. Potato Head because it denigrates Molly Yard. We'll be back right after this. Thing on television. Look.
Well, we have formally been out of a recession since the formal end of the recession in '91. What I would say, the economists measure recessions in formal ways, and as I said, we were formally out of a recession.
Hey, if it ended in '91, that means the recovery we're in now, it's a George Bush recovery. Clinton must not have had anything to do with it. See you later.